We've got Devin Ashby guest hosting coming up right now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Backpacking and Blisters podcast. With us today is a backpacking instructor, famous YouTuber, gear expert, and believer in Sasquatch, Devin Ashby. How's it going, man?
It's good. How are you?
I'm doing great. What are you laughing at? You laughing at your
Well,
intro?
you're revealing all my secrets.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. We have to establish credibility, right? And I think that the Sasquatch thing definitely establishes that. So
let's not make that as public moving forward. Yeah.
I'll edit that out. I'll take that part out. It's an honor to have you on the show, man. Guest host. Derek's going to be back next week. I don't know why he wasn't here this week. He's kind of elusive and kind of kept a secret about that. Maybe he's out of town or fake out of town, whatever that means. Either way, so we've got the top 10 most overpacked items that only you can prevent. So you've got your list ready, correct?
I've got my list ready.
Okay. And these are preventable things. Preventable for folks that they can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Have you done a video about this?
No. And I thought about that when you sent the information ahead. I was like, huh. In fact, like, here's the thing. From listening to many of the episodes of Backpacking and Blisters, your ability to come up with just the most obscure topics to talk about is like award-winning impressive.
Oh, that's nice of you, man. Thank you.
It's nice. You do a good job.
But this one's not that obscure though, like overpacked things, right?
No, it's not. I'm just saying in general. But I haven't thought about this as a video idea. So maybe I'll take it for future thought.
We definitely get ripped off a lot by YouTubers, but I don't think you're one of those that does that. a lot of our ideas get taken, but that's okay. All right, so so those are things I got afterwards, but let's get to it. So the way that
perfect.
Okay, so I want to do this like kind of in descending order. So the like when we say top 10, like the 10 would be something that maybe like fewer people typically overpack, or it's not as big of a deal. And then number 1 is like, this is a really big deal kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Okay. I like it. Yeah.
Okay. And then you're tracking.
It's good. Yeah. Tracking.
Okay. So
laser focused.
Laser focused.
Tractor
Well,
beam.
let's define overpacked items, like how you evaluate it or value them. Like when you say it's overpacked, obviously things that you're saying you're bringing too much of or you don't need. But for you, as you ranked them, was it more about like pack weight, like, like item weight, about just having clutter or too much of something? Like, what was your evaluation process?
Well, for me, it was level of unnecessary amounts, not necessarily in the realm of carrying too much weight or that kind of thing.
Okay.
But we'll go back on a little bit of story time. And the reason that this was funny and interesting to me is my brother was traveling to Hawaii, and the idea of like overpacking is completely exacerbated when you're like trying to fill a suitcase, right?
Oh,
and if you're like, okay, I'm going to go on a like 5-day trip to Hawaii or some exotic place, what is the first thing that you question yourself on?
In terms of what you're putting in your suitcase?
Yeah. How many pairs of underwear am I bringing, right?
Underwear?
the number of pairs of underwear. I'm going to be out for 5 days. I got to make sure I take 9 pairs of underwear, right?
That is actually up on my list, but not for the same reasons, probably. Like if I'm going to go, especially in Hawaii, if I'm going to go on like a run, then whatever underwear I'm using on that run, like that's done for the trip, right? That's not going to last the day. So that means you got to use at least 2 pairs that day.
Okay, that's fair. But it's the idea of like hiking, that the what if, like I'm probably going to poop my pants 3 times, so I better bring 9 pairs so I have at least 1 extra, right?
We have different Hawaiian experiences, I think. I've only been there once, though. That's hilarious.
I'm just saying in general. So I thought it was an interesting,
talk about weight savings. I don't know if Frontier flies to Hawaii, but you really gotta narrow down the weight there. I think
right.
it's like, what is it, 30 pounds or 30? Like most airlines, it's 50 pounds max, and theirs is like 40 pounds or less or something. And then they're charging now, I think it was like $70 a bag one way. $70 a bag one way.
So much money. So much money.
Yeah.
Am I
Back on
starting?
track. All
Am
right.
I going with number 10?
Yeah, why don't you start first? All right,
Okay.
we'll say yours is number 10. So counting down, number 10, most overpacked item in your opinion. What you got?
I'm gonna go with toiletries. And specifically in the realm of like toothpaste and sunscreen and bug repellent.
Okay.
It's and I see this because I guide, like I take students out on backpacking trips for the university that I work for. And sometimes I'll see like gallon-sized bags come out of backpacks that have like massive tubes of sunscreen for a weekend backpacking trip. Or like you just grab the tube of toothpaste, which is fine. Like you can carry that. It's not wrong to carry it, but it's just more than you need.
Okay.
And that's
just to clarify, so you're the backpacking instructor, and somehow you've made it from the classroom to the trail, and they're still bringing this stuff.
Oh, dude. You would not believe.
Are you not instructed then? What's going on here?
No, it's the instruction's happening.
They're saying no. They're saying no to you.
They're saying no to me. They are choosing to be autonomous and do what they think is right for them. I did have one student carry a like pretty large glass salt and pepper shakers. So salt, pepper, and they were easily 1 pound themselves. And he brought them to add to his ramen. So it was great.
Yeah. Do you ever, okay, this is actually, I didn't even think through this. This is actually a really good episode for you because you're literally observing people making these mistakes on a consistent basis and probably have just great stories about things like the salt and pepper shakers that we would never expect.
Oh, yeah.
But do you ever get to the point where you're on the trail, you've had multiple people that have overpacked, let's say their toiletries, and you're just like, what am I doing wrong? How do they think that's okay to bring like whatever it is, a full tube of toothpaste, 3 cans of spray, sunscreen, whatever it is?
Yeah. I do question myself sometimes where I'm like,
okay,
I talked about this, right? Like we talked about this. I covered this in class. And then I go through those checks and balances and then I'll go, yeah, I talked about it. They just weren't paying attention.
Okay.
Or sometimes I have been caught red-handed on suggesting somebody do something in the field on the trip. And they're like, well, why didn't you say that in class? And I'm like, well, I did say that in class. And they're like, actually, no, you didn't. And then there's like multiple of the students that are like, hey, you're wrong. So I have to eat my words a little bit, but you can't be.
Well, I imagine,
all the time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine after doing years of instructing, you kind of think through, you're like, okay, this is something that I typically cover. So I kind of assume that I've covered it, but really maybe you skipped over it accidentally or, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah,
that's totally very interesting. Yeah. So are you pro or anti deodorant in your toiletry kit?
I'm neutral. For me personally, I don't carry deodorant. I don't bother with it, but I don't shame somebody or judge somebody for wanting to do that.
Okay.
It's totally their call, but I don't think it's necessary.
Gotcha. Well, our podcast is all about shaming and judging people, so you have to put that hat on for today. So that's right. I'm just kidding. All right, I can see that. So gallon-sized bag of toiletries. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how many toiletries I bring. I don't typically bring toothpaste, and I typically don't bring floss unless it's going to be a longer trip. So
you just brush your teeth bare. Or like
with
put
water,
some sand on your toothbrush.
That works too. Yeah, ashes from the campfire.
There you go. You don't use toothpaste?
I use toothpaste at home, but I think I read somewhere that it was like we over toothpaste ourselves, and so it's okay to go without toothpaste for a few days. We get plenty of like the fluoride and all that stuff. So yeah, and I don't get cavities typically, so whatever I'm doing is working. But
Okay.
anyway, all right.
I'll
So
give
that's
you
a good
pass
one.
on
So
that.
toiletries, number 1. All right. Number 9, mine is wallet and keys. I'm gonna make that one item there. And
Mm.
I've seen this multiple people. So I don't know why. I get maybe bring, some sort of form of identification, license, maybe a credit card for some sort of weird emergency purpose where you have to like exit the trail. You want to have something on you or some cash or whatever, but full wallet and full keys. So again, I understand the single, like the car key, but do you need like your mailbox key, your house key, your work key, whatever, like a full set? And we did an episode a couple years back on like where to hide these things in your car if you're nervous about somebody stealing them. I hide them in like where the spare tire typically is, like under the padding or whatever. And I've never had an issue. But where are you with wallet and keys? You bring those? What's your thought?
I don't bring my wallet. And here's my secret way to hide my wallet in the car.
Okay.
If I don't have a good place, or if I'm putting it in like somebody else's car, it depends. Anyway, I digress.
Okay.
I will, because I have kids, I will put my wallet in a clean diaper and then shove that in a place, because like somebody is very unlikely to be like, ooh, there's a diaper there. Maybe there's a wallet inside of it.
Backpacking hack right there. At the trailhead, have a diaper on you, whether you have kids or not, and you can hide it. And you know what? And if it was a dirty diaper, like even better, because you're not, put it in a Ziploc, and definitely people aren't touching that thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. But I don't carry my wallet. But I think it really depends on location. You and I were in the West, so it's more common for us to like drive to the wilderness area to like really be off the beaten path and not even close to a city for us to go on a trip. Whereas I think like on the East Coast or the Midwest, maybe that's less likely to be the case. But I also think if you're a thru hiker, you're carrying a wallet, right? So I think it's contingent. But the idea that
I wouldn't carry a wallet. What are you talking about?
Like
credit card, cash, identification. That's it, right?
Right, but then you would have somewhere to put it, right?
Ziploc.
Which then defines it as a wallet. Okay, so it's a Ziploc wallet.
Your Ziploc snack bag is your wallet. I guess so. If you want to go that route.
Yeah. But yeah, you're not going to George Costanza the whole thing and have your hard candy and the last 6
Old
years
receipts.
of receipts.
Right. So, and then, and a lot of people do the hide a key thing anyway, but I'm willing to do that. It just depends on the trip and depends on how remote you are. But yeah, I think evaluating your trailhead, like how dangerous is this trailhead, how accessible it is. I mean, every state's got accessible trailheads, and a lot of the trailheads I go to just for day use, they get burglarized quite a bit. So I'm mindful of that there.
Yeah.
But
same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Okay. All right. So that's number 9. Number 8, what you got?
This might be a silly one, but I'm going with trail mix.
Yes. That's not silly. That's a good one.
It's not silly. Okay.
No.
Trail mix, it's like, okay, I'm going on a hike. Let me grab the 10-pound bag of trail mix from Costco and shove that into my pack. You're never going to eat that much. And it's overpacked because I think it's genuinely the last thing you want to be eating in your backpack. It's like, oh, here's all this bag of food I've got. I can't wait to eat that mix of peanuts, raisins, and other stuff that's in there. M&Ms, but they always melt and make a mess. So then you're questioning your life
They're not
decisions.
Supposed to. They're not, unless they get wet, they're not supposed to, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. Do you have wet trail mix? Does yours? Do you put water in yours?
What?
I don't know how your M&Ms are melting. If you have like chocolate chips, those things will definitely melt. But M&Ms
from the heat. Yeah, but then they like squish together against everything and they make a mess.
Okay. I think
that's not
I don't.
happened for
Did you
you
ever see those commercials where they say melt in your mouth, not in your hand? Like that's a real thing. So they've used all those chemicals on the outer shell to prevent that from happening.
Right.
They've spray coated it with like waterproofing, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think trail mix is good. I think a couple issues there. First of all, if you're buying like just the regular standard store bought trail mix, 100% agree, especially if you're throwing the whole bag in there. But I try to make my own trail mix so that it's not as terrible, first of all. And then I'll put it in like snack size Ziploc bags so that it's more, I don't know, like I'm going through, like I'm
Easier
excited
to
to have it,
consume.
but
Yeah.
easier to consume. But it's a very high calorie snack or lunch or whatever. So it's an efficient thing to bring on the trail. So that's why it tends to, show up there. But you're right. People definitely like it. When you go through your overpacked food at the end of the trip, there's usually a lot of trail mix. So that's a good one.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. All right. Next one I got. This one I've harped on this podcast, but not when you've been on. So I'm really curious about your opinion on this. Is bags. People, there's like this like bag culture that I single-handedly tried to stop, and I failed because people give me such pushback on their bag passion. And you might be one of them. I don't know, like having specific, I maybe have your logo on one of the bags, whatever. But people like to have a bag for this, a bag for that, a bag for this. And I just feel like it's overkill. I feel like they're having bags just for the sake of having bags. They're not heavy, so it's not like you're adding a whole lot of weight to your pack. It's just adding a lot of stuff. So an example would be like you have, I don't know, a lot of people can fit their fuel inside their cooking pot. Also has their lighter in there, and it has their stove in there. All self-contained, one thing. But people will bring a bag for that. Then they'll add, a cozy, or they'll add whatever extra things, extra goodies they want to have. And so just by the nature of having the bags, you're adding extra stuff to like justify having the bags in the first place. So bags, what do you think about that one?
I think that's a really good one, to be honest.
Okay.
I used to be a bag for everything, and then I swung the pendulum too far one way, and was like, you don't need bags for anything. And then I found a middle ground of what I enjoy of being organized to keep things in the place that makes it easier to pack my backpack. So, like for example, I sometimes, depending on the trip and the location and the weather, either pack my sleeping bag by just shoving it into the bottom of my pack, or it does go into a stuff bag to just like a compression bag. So that's like a 50-50 one. But I stopped using a bag for clothes. I was
going to ask you, clothes is another big one for sure.
I don't put clothes in a bag. And I do for my food. I think that's important because you need to be able to protect your food, right?
So not a Ziploc, but like a designated bag for that.
Designated bag, like roll top or a zipper style bag, so that I can hang food if I am hanging, even though I don't personally hang my food most of the time.
It's a whole other topic that we're going to get into later. Probably.
Yeah, and then I've got a bag for my poop kit, my first aid, and just kind of like a general ditty bag that has electronics and stuff.
Okay.
And that's just to contain all those little small pieces of gear that can get lost really easy. So having a home for them makes sense. But I'm not approaching it of everything needs to have a bag to be organized. It's going inside of a big bag. So.
Right. And just to clarify, I've got a bag for none of those things, except for like Ziplocs. Except the one thing that I could make a case for would be the electronics. If you're trying to, especially the cords and keeping everything self-contained, that's one that I probably should have. But the clothing one kind of blows me away a little bit because, like, for me, I'm not going to bury my rain jacket. That's going to be accessible. I want to have that handy in case it rains, obviously. And then I'm not bringing so many extra clothes that would require a bag. I just kind of throw them in the bottom of the pack and call it good. So, yeah.
I think the caveat that I would put on that is weather dependent. If you're in a super rainy place, then like I want to protect my insulation, my sleeping clothes. So if I do get soaking wet, like I fall in a river, fall in a lake, I hope you're not falling in lakes, but river crossings or just like a really wet day, then I don't want to flirt with hypothermia potential. And so whether that's a Nylaflume like pack liner, which is a big bag and that protects it, or it's a dedicated bag that I'm putting stuff in that's a dry sack to protect my gear.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. We've had the conversation recently about, like the pack liner versus the pack cover versus nothing. And I always think about it in terms of rain, but I never thought about the falling in the river thing. I've never fallen in. I've fallen in. I don't know. I've never fallen in where I've like submerged my backpack, I guess. But I'm sure people have done that. I don't know how common that is, or if it's common enough to warrant making sure you protect against that. But obviously, if you did submerge your backpack, like that's a really big deal. So
yeah, and I find myself in a lot of cases in the desert, for example, I'm walking in a river for a
right.
majority of the time. So I'm like in the water. So that is a good reason to protect. But also, and this is less common, but it has happened, where you could be in a spot where maybe you're doing a little bit of scrambling, like
Okay.
going up a peak or something, and you're taking off packs and you're passing packs up, and somebody sets a pack down and then it falls on its side because it wasn't steady, and then it rolls down into some kind of water feature, which I've seen that happen. And that's
You've
super
seen that happen.
unfortunate. I've seen it happen. Yep.
Wow. We're gonna have a like a search and rescue guy on, maybe even the next episode. We've been kind of working on this interview for a while, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask him, was how common it is for packs to kind of go flying off ledges and this and that, because we had somebody who, this is like early on, but somebody who reacted to our show who was really upset that we shared group gear, because they're like, you should all be self-contained. What if somebody's pack goes off the ledge or goes down a river? And I was like, yeah, that's a scenario that could happen.
Yeah, there's an argument for that.
But I've never heard of it happen. I don't even know anybody. I mean, I've interacted with how many backpacking people at this point. I've never even heard of somebody having that happen. So you're the first person who I've heard it's like roll down and it lands in a body of water. So that's interesting to me. But
anyway, I've seen it happen 2 different times. So it's not just like a one outlier. It's two different occasions where a pack has been passed, sat down, and then it wasn't able to stand up on its own, didn't get set down properly, and it fell into.
And this is a backpacking trip, not some sort of weird scrambling rock climbing trip.
A backpacking trip that included scrambling. Yes.
Okay, so like
or the other condition was in a slot canyon.
Yeah. Okay. So some more advanced backpacking, maybe, just to clarify.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Fair enough. Okay. So I think we're on number 6.
Number 6.
Correct? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going with Band-Aids.
Like not first aid kit.
Not just
Band-Aids specifically.
Okay. Band-Aids and unnecessary first aid items. We'll clarify with that.
All right, what you got?
Well, I mean, think about the last time you were on a backpacking trip and the last time you actually put a Band-Aid on something that needed a Band-Aid.
Yeah. I'll say this. I don't know how old you are, but as I've gotten older, like I went from never using my first aid kit to now like using it in an increasing amount every time I go.
But what are you using the most? Blister care?
Is that ibuprofen number 1 for sure.
Okay.
And not just for me, but for people in the group. And then definitely Band-Aids I don't know like a lot of Band-Aids, but strangely not blister care, but you'd think that would be number 1. So that's a fair point. But I'll stop complaining.
I just think, I don't know, going back to the underwear discussion, that carrying half a dozen Band-Aids for a weekend trip, plus like your standard type of first aid care items that you would need in case you got like a burn or some kind of like, I don't know, scraped your knee. But to have 30, 40 Band-Aids with you just doesn't make sense. And trust me, I've seen that many Band-Aids in somebody's backpack for a weekend trip. It's just
fair enough.
it's too much. But I think as well, carrying unnecessary first aid gear that is beyond your level of training. So you went to a store and they were like, well, you should buy this, or this looks like a really nice first aid kit. So you purchase that and half of the items don't apply, or you don't know how to use them, or they're beyond your level of training, and now they're
Right.
just bulk and weight in your pack that you don't need.
Right.
I think that happens pretty often.
I think 100%. Yeah, you should know if it's in your first aid kit and you don't know how to use it, don't bring it, right? Or learn how to use
Right.
it, one of the two things. But
Yeah.
I'll say this. So you're talking about somebody bringing 60 Band-Aids. I think you should not bring that many Band-Aids unless you have kids with you, and then you need 100 Band-Aids because they will find ways to need Band-Aids. And they might just be like arm decorations, but kids just, they want Band-Aids, as you know, because you got
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So, okay. That's a good one. I like that one. All right, next one I got is, let's see, we're on, I always have a hard time because we start talking, I forget where we are on the countdown here, but we are on, I think, number 5.
Yep.
So I've got down, this is, I think, like a surprising problem, and maybe even a newer problem, but I would call this excessive lighting. So for me,
interesting. Okay.
yeah, for me, like, all I really need is my headlamp. I don't really need anything else. Now, I have my cell phone with me anyway, so I have a natural backup because it's got the flashlight on the cell phone if I really need it, but I don't really use that for lighting. Like, unless like the batteries run out on the headlamp or something weird like that, it's not usually a need. But I've seen people, so they have the headlamp, they have the phone, then they bring like the mini flashlight. They just like having a little flashlight around the tent, or I don't know why they want it. Then they're really excited about either their flex tail or some sort of weird ultralight dual purpose like lantern thing that they can dangle from their tent. So it's 4 things right there. 4 things that are commonly held by folks. Excessive lighting. And I wanted like a church backpacking trip where I think I want to say like half the guys like qualified for excessive lighting. What do you think?
I will say I'm guilty of that on a regular basis. Okay. If you're including your phone, sure. I don't remember the last time I used my phone as a flashlight in the backcountry. I mean, around the house and stuff, I do all the time.
For sure.
But I do carry my headlamp. And oddly enough, I find myself using my headlamp way less than pretty much any piece of gear that I carry with me.
Okay.
Either I am in the tent early enough that I feel like I don't really need it, and that's the only time that I'm using it is like the 3-5 minutes that I'm getting ready to go to bed, or it's summer and you're out so late anyway with the sun being up longer that you end up not using your headlamp at all. So
what about 5 a.m.? You got to go pee and you're getting out of the tent then. That's headlamp, right?
No. I don't.
So what is it?
I don't like to ruin my my night adjustment, my night vision. So I don't. I do carry a lantern on a regular basis.
Like a mini one, not like the full old school lantern, but like the pirates use.
Right. Like the burning mantle from Coleman or whatever.
Right.
No, it's like a little either the flex tail or it's a night core lantern that just hangs up, and I think it gives more like broad light and it's less intense than just a headlamp. And it's funny too, all of the tents have those little like diffused pockets and stuff now, and I think I've only used that pocket like one time.
Oh, okay.
I think they're gimmicky. I don't ever use
for
them.
sure. Okay. My takeaway from your reaction to this is that if you go backpacking with Devin, he's probably not going to hang out with you long enough for it to be nighttime. So that's why he doesn't need
No, that's not true.
We're up like admittedly we're up way too late. So we have our headlamps going, and we have our headlamps like dangling inside the, we bring like an oversized tent for, playing games and stuff. And it's not uncommon for us to be up past midnight. And we end up paying for it the next day. But
okay. That's fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I enjoy just hanging out as long as possible and not turning any lights on because I want to watch the stars, man.
Yeah.
And then you got the person that clicks it on and they're just like blinding everybody, not
right.
situational awareness. So anyway, soapbox.
Do when they blind you, do you confiscate it from them? Do you say, you know what? Like, I've already asked you 3 times to stop like shining that in my eyes. I'm taking that away from you. You ever do that?
That's never happened.
Okay. All right. You're
But I
not the
have to,
authoritarian.
I have mentioned to people on occasion, like, hey, you want to shut that off? It doesn't need to be on.
Yeah.
And you're just
Or
like
you want to go to bed now?
kicking.
Because I'm tired of you.
See ya.
I'm just kidding. I don't say those things. Okay. All right. We're on number 4. What you got?
Number 4. This is my last one, so maybe this is closer to like number
This is gonna.
7,
You're wrecking the countdown, Devin.
number 8.
Let's see 4. Let's see 3. I think I'll do the last 3 then. This will work.
Okay.
All right.
This one is an excessive amount of cordage.
Okay.
Like paracord or
Right.
just that kind of approach. And it falls in that idea of what if. And I think it stems from a lot of like Boy Scout mentality where like you're going to end up lashing something. So you got to have 200 feet of paracord with you.
200 feet. Right. Okay.
I think in some occasions, yeah, having some cordage with you, depending on the trip, is important, and yeah, part of the 10 essentials. But I can't remember the last time I was like, I really need some cordage right now.
Right.
To fix something.
Well, the most common way that I've used it in the past is hanging bear stuff, bear food or whatever. Yeah, our food.
Yeah, so beyond what you would normally carry as part of a standard piece of kit, to just have like this ball of cordage that is like just in case, you know.
Yeah. Well, we did an episode a couple years back. I think it was like 21 uses for this commonly overlooked item. I forget what the name of it was. And we came up with legitimate uses for paracord. We're pretty proud of ourselves. Like, look at, like, this is an awesome item. Look at all these things you can do with this. But I want to say for the last 3 years, I've brought it and haven't pulled it out of my pack on the trip. So now I'm like, okay, it does do a lot, but I don't actually use it. Why do I even have it with me? And certainly for emergency purposes, it's good to have some. So maybe I just need to like cut a length of it that would be appropriate. But yeah, I feel like I agree. I think you're bringing too much, and you could probably get away with just a couple feet of it to solve a lot of problems. So that's a good one.
Yeah. Which for the record, I do have one more to share.
Okay.
So,
all right, good. All right. So that was number 4. 3, I've got this one I've definitely ranted about before. The sit pad / chair situation. So I'll tell you some of the arguments. I'll tell you my argument, and then I'll tell you some of the arguments I've heard in response to my arguments. But basically, my idea is I think a sit pad is great. It's like an ultralight way to have a comfy thing to sit on. I think a chair is great. It's not ultralight. Even the lightweight chairs aren't ultralight. You're spending at least a pound, but they're good and they're helpful. But I don't think there's a scenario where you need to bring both. I think that's where the overpacking comes in. So if you're somebody who, like, I feel like if you're going to take a snack break or a lunch break on the trail, like, pull out the chair if you get the chair. If you're, like, so I don't see a scenario where I'm going to be pulling up my sit pad on the trail or at camp just for like a moment. Like, either I'm just going to sit on the rock or the log, or I'm not going to sit down at all. If I'm going to sit down, it's usually going to be for a few minutes. So I'll pull the chair out, and it's usually pretty handy. It's like on the outside of my pack. So if you want to go ultralight, bring nothing. I certainly will bring nothing if I'm going like on a really ultralight trip. You want to bring a little bit of comfort sit pad, more comfort chair, but to have both seems weird. And so I've been told that, like, hey, you don't go backpacking out east enough, Carl. So there's a lot of just wet days where if you're going to sit down on something, it's going to be wet. And yeah, like that happens out west too. Like, I get it. But I just think that either people are taking a lot of breaks, like a lot of stack breaks or sit down breaks, or they're doing something different than me. And I'm not sure what that is. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. To the extent that it's one or the other, but I do think there are conditions where maybe the sit pad is part of your backpack, and that's like
the Gossamer gear.
Yeah, Gossamer gear. I mean, several others. So it's already there as part of like a aid in how the backpack performs. So there's that, and maybe that's not overpacking because it's critical to the backpack, or
Okay.
it is 3-season, like shoulder season, and that adds some insulation underneath you when you're sitting in your chair. Just adds a bit of warmth,
Oh,
so you can sit
interesting.
outside longer and use your headlamp.
Wow, those are good arguments. I like that. I've looked at the Gossamer gear, like I think it's the Mariposa pack. That's a pack I'm considering using. I don't know. I'm pretty finicky with the fit on things. I don't think that was adjustable. But I feel like if I brought that one and it had the built-in sit pad or a pack like that, I feel like I wouldn't bring the chair at that point. But I don't know. I'd have to think on that one. But those are good points. I like that.
Yeah, but I agree. It's having over redundancy for certain items. Yeah.
Right. For sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So you thought of one more. This is number 2. What you got?
Yes, which I had this on my list and then I kind of wrote it off the list, but I'm gonna bring it up. And I think it might be a little controversial, but
I like it better.
Knives.
Okay.
And
like knives in general.
Knives in general, which is funny for me because I'm like actually a huge knife guy.
Okay.
I have a massive collection of knives. But how often, aside from like cutting some cheese and salami, do you use a knife?
Right.
It's pretty irregular.
Never. Yeah, for me.
I mean, outside of the idea of, okay, it's part of like the concept of 10 essentials. You need to be able to cut things, first aid standpoint, be able to cut things. But maybe in your first aid kit, you've got like a mini Leatherman or Swiss Army knife that has scissors and stuff on it. I know that's super common for people. So like to have a big knife, something that you would like bushcraft with or like that kind of thing, maybe not totally necessary. Or to have multiples of them where you have like a pocket knife and then you have like a long 6-inch fixed blade knife.
Right. 6-inch fixed blade knife. Dang.
That you're like batoning wood with, or
right.
Like, I'm gonna clean fish with this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
making spoons out of sticks. There's that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
my knife is like an inch blade, ultralight, and I actually just shove it into my like first aid kit, and it never comes out. Like I'm not bringing the sausage. I'm not bringing things I need to cut with, but I have it in case. I think it's a good thing to have in case. And I think that there's just knife people in general. So no matter what, they're going to be bringing the extra knives. I mean, when we go to, I don't know about this year, but in the past years at the Outdoor Retailer Show, there's so many knife companies there, like so many. Right. I'm just like, dude, it's just kind of like a popular thing. And if that's your thing, like, great, go for it. If you like to whittle or do something or whatever. But for people that like weren't naturally knife people, I wonder if Bear Grylls popularized having the knife because he's constantly using it as like an axe or a saw or something so that he can make some sort of like structure or raft or whatever.
Yeah, it's that bushcraft survival type approach, which is different than what like a standard backpacker is going to do. But it has its place. Like if you're going to bring 200 feet of cordage, yeah, maybe that machete is important to be able to cut that in half. So,
right. Yep. Okay. That's a good one, man. I like that one. The knife. Okay. So now we are on to what number? Is it number 1? I think we're number 1, right?
Yeah.
Number 1. Okay. So I've got this one kind of relates to the like argument about base weight. So there's people that, they consider themselves ultralight or very passionate about either spending a lot of money or figuring out ways to pare down their base weight. And they just get it, way down. And then they kind of work back up from there by adding luxury items. So my number 1 is luxury items. I think luxury items can definitely add to your trip and make your trip fun. And you might have a luxury item or two, like a chair, like we talked about, or like your knife. Yeah, like bring that along. If that's going to kind of add some flavor or flair to your trip, awesome, do that. But I think that some of the people that have spent the most money on like ultralight backpacking gear tend, at least in my group, not to have the lightest packs. and not even close to the lightest packs. Like they're still pushing 30 pounds or more, not because they have bad gear, but because they have too much of it. And they're usually overspending in luxury items, oftentimes in food and water as well. But, you know, whether that's like camp shoes or Crocs specifically,
Mm.
or that's having, you know, the chair and the sit pad, or then they're going to, you know, they're going to have their coffee maker, their specialty coffee thing. Like individually, none of those are really adding a ton of weight. But when you are throwing in luxury item after luxury item, then a lot of those end up being things you're going to have around camp anyway. So it becomes more about your camp experience and about your trail experience. And so I feel like the balance is off there. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think
Okay.
you have to find a balance. And
For sure.
there's so many like fun gadgets and things that you can take. But when you really
Right.
boil it down, do you need those? Probably not.
Right.
I think
Right.
that's why they're called luxury, right? You don't need a
Yeah,
chair, but the chair adds a lot of comfort.
it does. Yeah. And speaking of the chair, I have like the Helinox ultralight chair, which is
Hmm.
fine. But somebody bought me an Amazon cheapo, like 2.5 pound chair that
Okay.
is like more upright and just higher up off the ground. And it's just like impossibly heavy. But oh my gosh, it's so much more comfortable. And so I've been bringing that. And it's just like, this is such a dumb piece of gear to bring, but it does add a lot of like, it's just like borderline a camp share around, you know, like a car camping trip. And so I
Yeah.
feel dumb bringing it, but I'm like, I actually really like it. It's kind of funny.
That's funny. I just filmed
Yeah.
yesterday, in fact, a video on backpacking chairs. So
Okay. Was one of them like a cheapo Amazon one?
kind of, but it
Okay.
wasn't like 2.5 pounds. It was
Right.
from Trekology. So nice,
Oh,
like
gotcha. Okay.
nice budget option. But I did a
Okay.
full comparison of like the most popular backpacking chairs and
Gotcha.
roasted one of them really hard.
The
It'll make
Nemo.
no.
Okay.
I like the Nemo. It's
Yeah.
too much money. No, I
Yeah.
roasted the REI FlexLight Air.
Okay. Air.
I
I
got
had the
roasted
Flex
in the
Light.
comments the last time I made a video about chairs, and they're like, "How dare you not include the FlexLight?" And so I did.
Oh,
I went and got one, and
okay.
oof, that is not a
Yeah.
good chair.
No, no, that's one that, and that's actually why I have the Amazon one, is it broke on me in the middle of the trip. First of all, I was getting made fun of for how it was sitting because it was just like in this really uncomfortable position. But then those the legs like dig into the ground. So if you have like a soft ground, and then I tried to scooch forward, but the leg stuck, so it just like bent the leg and just snapped on me. And
That was
the
on the
guy who'd been
REI
making
one.
fun of me for what's that?
That was on the Helinox or the REI.
That was the REI one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I still have the Helix one. I'm actually just known for breaking chairs in general. But anyway, the guy that was making fun of me for how I was sitting and then for breaking the chair felt bad. And he like bought me the Amazon one. So that's where I got that from.
I
But
see. I see. Nice.
yeah, anyway. Okay. So the other thing, like the kind of the captain obvious ones we've talked about on our show before is like the food and water and
Clothing.
you mentioned the trail mix. We kind of already talked about food a little bit, but just over bringing the food and water and just kind of it's hard to dial in the food, especially like predicting the difficulty of the trail with how much you typically eat, you know, depending upon how much you exert. The water, I feel like that's you can just look at water sources, look at your map, get intel on the area to know how much water you should have on you.
Hmm.
I've got a buddy and we're doing the Maroon Bells in Colorado, which is like a 27-mile loop over 4 mountain passes at 12,000 feet, but there's water everywhere there. And so, no, I think I'm going to carry like half a liter at most at any point just to shave weight. And I should be fine as long as I'm
Gotcha.
consistently filtering. So
Yeah.
that's an example. Um, okay, let's talk about, okay, we got our list. If you have any things that we missed or things that you were offended by, please let us know because I'm sure we bothered somebody. So,
Yeah, that'll be great.
all right, I've got overpacked luxury items trivia for you coming up right after this. All right, man. So when we have guest hosts on, we like to have these punishments for if you lose trivia. So you got to get 2 out of 3 correct. And if you lose, if you get 1 or none correct, here's my challenge for you is we're going to run into each other, hopefully, at the Outdoor Retailer Show here in a couple
Hmm.
weeks. I would like you to give me 1 piece of gear out of your gear box. It's like a real piece of backpacking gear, but you just no longer use anymore. It's just kind of like hanging around, just a random piece of gear. Could be big, could be small, your choice. Do you agree to those
Okay.
terms?
Okay, I agree. I can do that.
All right. All right. And then I'll report back what that is if you lose. But if you win, what do you want from me?
The next backpacking trip that you go on with a
Okay.
group, you have to beg each person to let them give you a liter of their water. So you have to carry an extra liter of water of each person of the group for, let's say, 3 miles.
Do you know how big our groups are, by the way? We typically go.
I have no idea. Are we talking like 12 liters of water here?
Yeah. Well, our last one, yeah, depending upon how, yeah, what point of the trip we had, like, I think 14 go. And then,
Oh
but
man.
I would say like we're usually at like 7 minimum.
So you have
So-
to walk up to each person and go, here, let me take that for you. Let me help you out.
Okay.
Let me take that for you.
Okay.
And then
That was like a similar punishment that I had on a bonus episode that somebody had. So I'm happy
was
to do
it?
that. So I'll kind of combine it. His was a lot nicer. His was like one dude, one water bottle, 1 mile. So yours is a little more aggressive. I think you have more faith in my fitness than most people do. So thank you. Okay. All right. Well, let's find out. So here's the deal. So you got to get, like I said, 2 or more correct to pass where I'm going to be carrying the water. All right. All my questions are multiple choice and they're all sort of about overpacked luxury items from various sources. Here we go. Number 1, according to an old Backpacker magazine article from 2022, this is when it was like still a real magazine. Which of the following is not a weird luxury item their editors have a hard time with that. Which is not a weird luxury item their editors took with them. So they talked about, like, we brought this weird stuff, all these things they brought, except for one of them. Here are your options.
Interesting. Okay.
A disco ball. B, frozen lobster tails. C, a cat. Or D, an actual bed pillow. This is a hard one.
I mean, the lobster tails seems like a legit option. I would consider that.
Yeah.
The bed pillow, I would do that.
Okay.
That
Like an
seems
actual
okay.
full size, you could fit that in your pack.
I mean, if it's going to make it more comfortable, I will make it work.
Okay.
I'm going to go with disco ball. That
Disco ball.
Ridiculous.
I don't know why the disco ball, but somebody brought a disco ball, man. It was the bed pillow.
What?
Bed pillow. Yeah. Yeah. And the cat, like, I would bring a cat to terrorize other backpackers, but that just does not seem like a good idea in general. So yeah. So the actual bed pillow. Interesting. Okay. Number 2, I peruse lots of luxury items lists. Which one was most consistently on there? Like the most consistent where you have, like this YouTuber, this blogger, this person's like top 10 luxury items. Like the item that is the correct answer was on pretty much all the lists. Is it A, a chair, B, massage ball, C, Crocs, or D, a lantern?
Ooh. The massage ball I know is popular, but I'm not gonna go for that. Let's go with the chair. It just seems
chair is correct. That is correct.
reasonable.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. All right.
It's coming down to this last one.
I was waiting for if it was going to be like an air pump.
Oh.
But you said lantern.
I have a feeling that some of these lists that kind of pop up my Google searches are not. They're like, some of them are new, but not all of them are new. So I think the air pump is still. Dude, that should have been on there. You're right. Like for the last 2 years, that's definitely one of the one of the most common ones. I don't think I saw that on any of the lists. That's funny. Yeah. So okay.
The chair makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, the chair for sure. All right, number 3. Which of the following luxury items is the heaviest? All right, so here we go. A Kindle e-reader. That made a lot of lists, by the way, was having an e-reader. B, a single Croc. Like average rate, like some Crocs weigh more than others, different foot sizes, whatever, but they typically say like size 9. And then if you had to average it out, average weight of a single Croc. C, a Snow Peak titanium French press. or D, the GSI Infinity mug. And I don't know if you know the name of the mug, but you've seen these mugs. It's like the plastic cup that has the like canvasy outside with the handle. They're usually like blue or orange. You can make red ones now too. Yeah.
Huh.
The heaviest.
Those Kindles are a lot lighter than you think they are. And you...
Right.
I'm going to go with a Croc.
The Croc is correct at 7 ounce average. Wow. You got it, man. You got it.
What did I say? 6 ounces? I said 6 ounces.
Yeah. So the French press is like 6 to 6.5, and the Croc was just a little bit more at 7 ounce average. And then the mug is only 3.5, and the Kindle's 5.5. So
boom.
Kindle tends to be a little more when you like add the, casing or whatever on there, but I didn't say that. So, all right, I'll make a note that I got to carry a lot of water. Dang it. So
I think it would make for a good like Instagram reel or something for you to just walk up to somebody in your group and be like, hey, let me take that from you. Let me help you out, and record the reaction. And then 3 miles down the trail with 12 liters. What is that? 3 gallons of water.
Well, I think that the key is, and anytime we do a challenge like this, the key is you don't explain why you're doing it, right? You just like ask for things, and you don't say like, well, I'm doing this because I lost a bet. Like, no, you just like ask for the water, and then then you get more of like a weird reaction.
Yeah, totally.
So, okay. All right. Well, I'll do that.
Maybe limit yourself to a gallon. Don't overdo it.
Okay. All right. If you're going to put a cap on, I'm happy to cap it for sure. So, all right. We got a couple tidbits. First one is we do have, I think, 3 or 4 new reviews on our Apple Podcasts app. And so I'm going to go through those with Derek next week, assuming he's back next week, which I think he will be. And then when we have a guest host on, we always like to save the key tidbit for you to promote anything you got going on, man. I know you've alluded to a couple things about, upcoming videos and things, but tell us about your channel, where we can find you, just anything you want to share. What you got?
Okay. Well, Backcountry Exposure, if you don't know, that's anywhere that YouTube, website, Instagram, TikTok, that's where I'm at. I've got some pretty cool things coming up this summer. That a pretty aggressive trip that's a little bit of like off-trail stuff that I'm doing with Brigham from Outdoor Vitals. So that'll be a fun trip. And then I'm also repeating one of the best backpacking trips I've ever done down in Capitol Reef National Park. And that's planned for the fall. So it's a couple really exciting trips I got coming up. Plus I've got a lot of really cool gear that I'm testing all through the summer that I'll be reviewing and stuff. So trying to, here's kind of a glimpse into what I'm trying to do. I'm less interested in everything ultralight at this point, and just trying to appeal to a wider audience of just spending time outside and having a good time outside. Focusing on the experience and less about how much my backpack weighs.
Gotcha.
So you're going to see a lot of gear that is not in the ultralight category,
right?
Because of that. So
I'm the same way. I like, there's trips where I want to go ultralight, but most trips where I'm not like pounding the miles, I want to have the balance, like we talked about.
Yeah. So like for example, this weekend, are you familiar with the Haven tent?
Yeah.
So I'm taking the Haven tent, and it's like 9 pounds, I think, for the XL size. And I'm going to backpack with it kind of as like, hey, I understand it weighs a good amount, but you can backpack with it. Just because it has weight attached to it doesn't mean you can't use it. So that's kind of my approach.
And then if you backpack with that and go pack rafting, now we're talking some serious weight. So
yeah, right.
All right. Well, we'll have a link to your channel as always in our show description. And Devin, man, so appreciate you taking the time to join the show.
Awesome.
It's an honor to hang out with you. I'm looking forward to connecting with you at the Outdoor Retailer Show, and hopefully we'll have you back on for that too. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All right, cool. All right, so check out Backcountry Exposure, and everybody have a wonderful week. God bless.
I want to fly.